I'm going to introduce you to this afternoon's MC, and that is going to be Jim Miller, who is Yale College class of 1980. Jim, take it away.
Thank you, and thank you for coming. As she said, I'm Jim Millar, actually. That's Miller spelled with an A. But I'm here to MC for the Miller Prize Pitch-Off. The Miller Prize awards a grand prize of $25,000 to the best student-led venture developing innovation or tech-enabled solutions. In a moment, you'll be hearing from 4 outstanding teams who were selected by from a very competitive pool of teams. A big thank you to my team, the reviewers, and our judges in helping to select the finalists today. So let me introduce you to our judges who are sitting right up here that will make this big decision today. We have Fritz Dezar, a design leader and educator with over 25 years of experience. Audrey, did I get that right? Audra Gibson, a seasoned entrepreneur and startup mentor with Techstars. Lana Graff, an experienced investor in AI technologies and a startup advisor. Ty Hutchinson, a VP in the startup banking group at JP Morgan and a nonprofit board member. And Steph Sheehan, a scientist and entrepreneur in the renewables and environmental industry. Thank you to our judges and your support. Let's give them a big round of applause. Okay, a little bit about our sponsor. This prize is made possible by Brian Miller. Brian is the founder and chief investment officer of North Sound Management Partners. Brian has sponsored this prize since the first startup Yale with the goal of supporting young minds creating world-changing technologies. A big thank you to Brian, who couldn't be with us today, for his support of the teams you'll be seeing and the broader student community at Yale. And now, just a description of what the competition will be. Each team will have 5 minutes to make a pitch, and then we'll take 10 minutes of Q&A from the judges. After we've heard from all 4 finalists, the judges will deliberate and choose a grand prize winner. I'm also excited to share, as we had with the previous one, is that the audience will be able to vote on your top team. And the team with the most audience votes will receive the Audience Choice Award as well. There are voting cards on your seat. After you fill that out, please deposit it in the back. There will be a box, there'll actually be somebody carrying the box around. And we'll announce both the grand prize winner and the Audience Choice winner for the Miller Prize at 5:30 today in this room. So I'd encourage everybody to stick around for that so that we can celebrate both. Okay, so let's get to the teams. First, I'd like to invite up Kijani Carbon to the stage. This company turns waste into revenue and carbon sequestration and will be represented by Sandeep Shami.
All right, just let me know when my time starts. You can start. All right. So we are Kijani Carbon, and our mission is turning sugarcane waste into impact and income in East Africa and beyond. So let's start with the problem, which is sugarcane waste. Seems to be a technical issue here. All right, so the typical flow is that sugarcane is harvested in farms, processed in a factory, and then burned or stockpiled. Now, there are problems on both ends of this equation. On the farm side, due to the heavy reliance on chemical fertilizers, farmers are facing rising costs and degrading soils. On the other end, of course, the emissions is terrible for the environment. Kijani is turning this very problem into the solution. We're doing this by focusing on the waste. Now, typically bagasse burned, pressed mud and fly ash are also discarded. So what we are proposing to do is enrich. We want to take the bagasse, turn it into biochar, mix it with the other bioproducts to create a biochar fertilizer, semi-organic, that is going to be impactful for climate and farmers in ways which we will discuss in detail. But first, how do we achieve this technically? Now, bagasse is a uniquely difficult feedstock to work with for two primary reasons. The first is its high moisture content. The second is that it leaves silica residue when you burn it. We've solved both of these through our unique technical setup. The first thing we're doing is recycling the gas to go at an earlier stage in the process, drying the bagasse before it even hits the pyrolyzer, leading from a power deficit to a power surplus. The other thing we're doing, which is unique, is having modular pyrolyzers, which enables us to take one out of circulation, clean it without disrupting production, and it enables friendlier capex scaling. So what is the impact of doing this properly at scale? The impact is on farmers, on the climate, and on mills. The value we're bringing to farmers, a 24% increase in their income. For climate, we want to be close to a gigaton of sequestration by year 10. And for mills, not only are we improving their supply, but we are literally paying them $1 million a year for what is currently their waste. And this is also beneficial for us. I'm going to focus on where we have traction, which is our beachhead at Angata Sugar Mills, a mill where my family are also investors. And the investors of Angata Sugar Mills also have stakes in 8 other mills, which gives us a very clear path to scaling. And once we find success at the beachhead. So let's dive into this. Let's look into how this $7 million of revenue breaks down. 70% is through our fertilizer sales. And very importantly, farmers pay 40% less than they are currently paying with chemical fertilizer. The rest is on carbon credits with a conservative price of $100. But we are doing this based on solid foundation. We have contracted farmers. We have a very viable payback period and durable carbon removal through the fastest growing category, which is biochar. And how this scales over time, because we are replicating this over mills, and because each mill is growing in its production, we have a 78% CAGR over the 5 years. And we are enabled to do this, to claim this scaling, because we are the only company in East Africa that have secured customers and feedstock, as well as the ability to scale. So now, where we are today, where the Miller Prize becomes critical, is in technical de-risking, setting up the setup pyrolyzer, in filing the local and the international filings, and in the pre-startup operations. I know this goes over by 2000, that's because we're putting some of our own money into this as well. This will enable us to go into our beachhead, expand in Kenya, and then globally. And our team, so Abid and I have been embedded in the sugar industry, and we have over 2 years of experience in this because of our experience through Angata. I am on the operations side. Abid is on the technical side, working closely with Thomas, who has over 2 decades of experience in pyrolysis and biochar machinery. The rest of our team has experience in everything ranging from soil science to MRV, and very critically for Kenya, policy and government relations. Thank you, and I'm inviting any questions. Yes?
What does your return look like without the carbon credit?
Yeah, so it's, I don't want to say the exact number, but it's around about 2 years, I think, the payback period, because it's only accounting for 30%. And I know that that's sometimes considered a higher risk category. That's why we indexed on the fertilizer.
Jump right into my second one then. Why are you starting it? So you have pyrolysis technology, you're working on that. But it sounds like you're starting with a very hard feedstock material. Why are you starting with bagasse?
Yeah, so bagasse is it's difficult, but it's also high opportunity, right? So there is biochar that exists for other feedstock like wood, sawdust. Those are easy to process, right? But bagasse is still a waste, right? So we're also trying to solve the climate problem. like if we don't process bagasse, what happens is it just emits carbon and a lot of carbon, and it's still a waste problem. So the idea is to get over the technical moat. That way it leads us with a moat, right? And it also enables us to turn a problem into a solution in many ways.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Ooh. So I wanted to ask you a question about the hydrolyzer. Are you planning on leasing the hydrolyzer? Or are you building it? So I just want to understand the unit economics of this.
Yeah, for sure. So the pyrolyzer we want to build, of course, we're going to need the investment for this. We have pathways for investment, but we have to first prove out the technology. We want to own it, and we want to scale it like that. And essentially, we'll go and approach a mill with this proposal. It's almost a no-brainer for them because from waste, they're getting a ton of income. And so to scale like that, owning the technology, going to 20 mills within Kenya, then scaling to East Africa, and then beyond that.
Awesome. And then my second question, you mentioned that the bagasse is like a very difficult,
Yes.
to cultivate. And so it is very moisture, like high moisture rich. And then I'm thinking if you're in an area with high humidity, how are you thinking about the location that you're building out and,
Yeah.
how you're, like, as you think about the scaling piece of that and how you're protecting, the bagasse as your beachhead?
Yeah, it's a very good question because it is high in moisture, which means like to burn it takes more energy, which is not great. And there are some operations that dry bagasse just in where they sit outside to put it in a shelter. Now, where we're at, it just comes out like 200 tons a day from a mill. So it's just too much to cover, which is why we've like factored that into our like calculations of moisture. And we said it was easier to solve it in the technology itself. And we wanted to be, operating such that the waste doesn't pile, right? Whatever is produced from the sugar factory, we are able to process, which is also something enabled by our modular system.
Hey, good job.
Thank you.
I want to ask a little bit about your pilots. From my recollection, it sounded like you had secured a pilot from your application. You mentioned in your pitch that you had also secured customers, so maybe that's evolved.
Yeah.
But could you help us understand a little bit more what stage of the pilot? Has it started? Have you finished it? What have you learned from it? And then I'm also curious, I think I recall that you didn't have an MVP fully in market yet, but you were going to use the pilot to learn. And so I'm curious what you're going to deploy in the midst of the pilot if you don't have the MVP ready to go.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So currently, our main partnership here is with Angata Sugar Mill. So they give us they've given us some grants to do some initial research. We've done an analysis of like a bunch of different equipment providers, landed on the one that works. So we're making progress in that sense. What still needs to be done is like bring a mini setup, do some pyrolysis, see is the carbon content working out, is all of our math correct as we've attempted it. And we've also like very recently, like a week ago, we were in talks with a company that's just like funded around $2 million in the series, $12 million in the Series A. They want to work together. They are like on the MRV side, and they wanted to work together to like figure out the science of processing bagasse. So it's like just being first to market. I don't know if that fully answers your question.
That helps. And then what does it take for you to get to the process of doing a mini setup?
Yeah, so we've already identified the pyrolyzer, right, that we want to bring. It's like I think it's around 100 kilos a day, right? So like a much lower volume, but it helps us check the boxes of like the carbon content that we expect and all of the other metrics.
Sure. Let me clarify a bit. I understand what you're trying to achieve. I'm wondering, this is the next step that you need to take to advance the company forward. Is this an extra expense to get the mini setup done? Is it a certain amount of time to get it set up? Like what gets you to this next step, either in terms of investment or bringing on team members or setup?
Yeah, okay, that helps. So yeah, that's covered. So that's when I say technical de-risking, that's including the setup, right? So that is covered by that amount of money. It'll enable us to get a test and install it de-risk.
Hello, great presentation. I had a couple of questions around the go-to-market here.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
what's the thought? Because I didn't really see anyone on the team that was focused on sales or like actual distribution. I get the
Yeah.
relationship with Angata, but I'm just curious about how you all are thinking about that. With the idea that you don't have anything yet in market, and then kind of second part to that is like, do you have a firm letters of intent from someone? Say like, hey, once you build this, we are your first customer, and agree to pricing and all of that.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. So currently, like you're right, Angata is our main partner, and it's very really like it's hard to describe, but it's very relationship driven in Kenya. It's also like a lot of the mills are like skeptical initially. So because we are like already very much embedded in the industry, it helps with that scaling, right? So as I mentioned, like the investors in Angata also have stakes in all of these other ones. And you are asking whether they're like signed LOIs. It's not a signed LOI yet, but it's a strong verbal commitment, and it's based on like the viability, like are you guys working? So I feel like very strongly we'd be able to get LOIs after we actually have a small setup, have proven some of the science behind it. Then it's like, okay, like you've de-risked it. It makes sense for us to sign on to that. And then we have like very quick scaling, and we'll be able to go after that to East Africa.
So just a couple, maybe more on the commercial part, like
Yeah.
thanks colleagues, for all the great questions. So on the real customer side, for the first 24 months, who are they? Like, I'm trying to understand, is it the carbon buyer, the mill, or the farmer
Thank you.
ecosystem?
Very good question. So there's two customers. There's the mills, and then there's the farmers that are the end customers. What we've done with Angata is a system we want to roll out everywhere, which is we collaborate to actually like contract with farmers that they'll buy the fertilizer and map them like using GIS. So we know even the small like half an acre plot belonging to this one smallholder farmer, we can track exactly where the biochar, the fertilizer ends up, which becomes critical down the line for carbon certification. So that's like the end buyer, and then the mill is the second customer, because we have to go and work with the mill to take their waste, process the waste, and then the fertilizer we will sell it back, and then they will go and...
Yeah, and you are
Yep.
coordinating the relationship. You coordinating the relationship. In
Yes,
that.
yes, so, yeah.
Okay, so with that said, like this is quite advanced science behind this. I can see that. And for us, let's say, to put you in a bucket, is it more like a project company, tech enabler, or is it a platform for distribution? I'm trying to get like what's the business line?
I would say in between project company and tech enabler. We're not really a platform, but we hope we'll get there eventually, like when we have the scale of multiple operations and we have data flowing from all of these different factories, like finding those efficiencies, figuring out the technical kinks in how to work with bagasse. Yeah, that's our ambition.
I see. And location, I'm just curious, the East Africa you picked, is it like because of this connection with the first pilot, or this is exactly the place with all other?
I think it's both. It's a very ripe place for this kind of business, because it's essentially all these mills are wasting bagasse and they're emitting like carbon. It's just a very bad situation, and it helps to have that leverage of that connection, not only with the beachhead, but all the other mills within Kenya. It's definitely an advantage. So it's a bit of both.
Okay.
All right.
I think our time is up for the questions. Thank you, Sadiq.
Thank you.
So now we're going to move from environmental over to AI. Our next presenter will be Parti, which is building a trust layer for physical AI, from humanoids, autonomous vehicles, to surgical robots. It creates secure containers for robotic software, and Sophia Yang is going to tell us more about it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sophia, and I'm excited to share about Parti with you today. So robots are going to be everywhere, and we need to trust them. Parti provides the trust layer so that we can actually have the proliferation of robots, and we do that in two ways. The first is hardware-backed end-to-end security, and the second is guaranteed real-time availability. Let's talk about what that is, why that matters. It matters because for physical AI, 50 milliseconds matters. When you are on YouTube taking a cloud software service, 50 milliseconds can be a minor irritation. But for a physical AI, for a 3,000-pound taxi or a surgical robot searching your small intestine, 50 milliseconds is the boundary between life or death. So why was this research created? DARPA wanted to figure out the solution to this 50 millisecond problem and do it so that you could apply it to all sorts of hardware and have it guarantee this timeline even if the operating system was compromised. How it actually works is Parti sits below your operating system. It places your applications, your software, the same way that you place your valuables in a lock safe. It places them into trusted execution environments where your data and your software is protected. Yale Ventures invested in Parti, and it assigned an associate, myself, to help figure out the commercialization. I joined as a co-founder after digging into the problem, the market, and it's been a hyper-focused period of customer exploration and understanding who we can best serve. This summer is a critical inflection point for us as a company. It's critical because the market is hot. Physical AI cybersecurity is highly fast, highly moving right now, and our biggest competitor, Exyn, just received $100 million in Series C funding, and they do not provide the same guarantees that Parti does. It would be a shame for us not to attack this market because it is massive and it's growing at an incredible rate with regulation shifting day by day. The FDA just released in February 2026 new guidelines for cybersecurity with AI-enabled devices, and this is only going to continue to change. What the Miller Prize enables is for us to actually execute our pilot program in person and execute that pilot program successfully. We have been speaking with NVIDIA, Sunday AI, Zoox, and many other physical AI companies. I need to go in person and further invest in this business relationship so that we can actually execute a pilot program. Our business model is an open core model where we release the software online, and we have enterprise planning to provide licensing, attestation, and many other features. This project was developed over 5 years in Yale. It's a very rich, feature-rich product, and we just need to get it into clients' hands. And ultimately, Parti is not just for physical AI today. It's for all of IoT and robotics in the future, and it will actually address the need for trust that is hurtling towards us today. This is our team. Happy to talk more about why each of us is meant to be working on this project. The last project that came out of this lab is now a $2 billion blockchain unicorn, and we are excited to follow that path. Thank you for your time. This is my co-founder, Richard. And so we'll answer the questions together.
Hello. Great presentation. Thanks for walking us through. So I had a quick question, kind of reading this through, and it really came down to how do you think about who your primary customer is, right? Like who your ideal customer, looks like, right? Because I'm hearing, humanoids, drones, overall robotics and so on, and
Yeah.
obviously the sort of geopolitical environment right now kind of speaks to a large part in
Yes.
terms of uses of drones and so on. So just curious, how are you all seeing the sort of go-to-market and that ideal customer profile? And a small follow-up, like where are you with that ideal customer?
Yes, I'm just going to go back. So to first answer your question, we focus on commercial use case for Party, and this is based off our conversations across like many verticals. So we've spoken with over 25 physical AI developers from smart medical devices, humanoids, autonomous vehicles. We have had the most traction with Sunday AI, which is a humanoid robotics company, because the people that are developing this physical AI today candidly do not have security solutions, and they are trying to deploy as soon as possible. And Party fits a lot of their needs in a really robust solution. So I think that is who, that's the person I speak to the most. We've also been speaking with the head of security at Zoox, where Richard interned. That could be a great partner for us. We're planning to go to SF next month to just actually be in person and invest in that business relationship. So it could be across, and to answer your question, it could be across those three. So a startup like Sunday AI, somebody a little bit more established like Zoox, and then with NVIDIA, it's been more of a partnership route.
Just maybe on the technical part, so for it to scale, you guys need to go through some certifications or like pass any security test, whatnot? I understand there are different verticals for the businesses, of course, but curious.
Yeah, I think the regulation today, like with ISO, like we enable a lot easier for you to get that regulation, because something I didn't mention that Party does, it provides cryptographic proof of which software ran in each of these, what I call the boxes, and you can know that it's not been tampered with. That is actually the use case that someone like Zoox is most interested in, because they want to know, if I have a car in Norway, how can I know for sure that what is running on this car today is safe? And when I turn on this car, I can say for sure my Zoox hardware is running as it should be. Party provides an attestation, cryptographic proof that has occurred. Do you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah. So I also, in my lab, we focus on building formally verified software. And so we have a lot of expertise in building systems that you can prove safety properties about. And for automotive and other industries, that's really important.
And then maybe just double down. The customer here is a CTO or is a security layer or a compliance team?
Yeah, we've been talking with like chief information security officers. So CISOs are the key decision makers that we've been speaking with. At Zoox, it's the head of security. NVIDIA was the director of embedded platform solutions. So that's a little bit different, because with Zoox or with NVIDIA it would be more of like an add-on to IGX HoloScan. But that's again a different type of customer.
And just one quick follow-up. What's your number one blocker right now, assuming you're not post-revenue, right?
Yeah. No, we're pre-revenue.
Right. So what's your number one blocker right now to revenue, to getting to $1?
Yeah, I'm realizing, so I'm a first-year MBA student. I'm realizing I can do as much as I can virtually, but I need to go in person and look at these people and if I'm selling a security product, I need to say, like, this is who you're working with, these are the people that are building this, and invest in that relationship further. I think business development is incredibly crucial to actually signing a deal. And I did mention, we received $10,000 in funding from Bessemer, part of their BEAM program, which is pre-incubator. And so you might be wondering, like, okay, why don't you just go to SF with that $10,000? Then after that, I'm like, okay, if I get a pilot program, how am I going to fund actually executing it? Like, what happens after that? After I sign a pilot, I need to actually provide this service, provide client tooling. I don't have that right now. I need to make sure I can service that client. I don't know if I can guarantee I'll have that time after the summer. So this prize really enables me to work on this full time.
I love that. Very impactful, and really like where your head is at. So I'm really excited about this. I wanted to ask you if you could just go over a little bit more of the makeup of your team. And one thing that I'm really thinking a lot about are the changes in AI and all of the impending policies that are coming down the pipeline, and how your team is planning to stay abreast of that. So I'm just curious, like, how are you thinking about preparing for rapid regulation, as this is just kind of an ongoing experience for all?
Great question. So my background is actually in fintech. It's, as you can imagine, fintech is a highly regulated space. I worked in B2B fintech, working for a company that I made technology for banks. That company was owned by 9 banks. So I'm very well versed in launching products in a highly regulated space. Before I was B2B fintech, I was B2C fintech, also highly regulated. So I would say I'm very comfortable with managing and maneuvering that kind of space. Also, Richard and Professor Zhang Xiao are very well versed with security and all the changes that come in a landscape that is changing the definition of what security even means day by day. Oh, okay, also, sorry. NVIDIA came to us because they know of this lab and its security capabilities. So I think that's another wedge that we have, is that this is a prolific lab that is well known in the industry as leading security solutions.
I guess probably along those lines, what are your biggest competitive advantage? Like you said, you're going to go out and raise $1 million pre-seed round.
Yes.
Why would we want to invest in you over, I guess Exxon raised a real large one, but I guess what are your major competitive advantages on the market when it comes to both customers and investors?
Great question.
And your moat as well. Like what's stopping Palo Alto Networks from just doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I think I actually have a better slide than this. The reason why is because finding expertise in this market, specifically with trusted execution environments, is incredibly scarce. We've been talking with the head recruiter at 1X. I don't know if you've heard of them, like humanoid robotics. They've had 4 roles for cloud security infrastructure for 8 months, and they had not been able to fill this role. So finding somebody who can actually build this very, very well is very hard. That's my first answer for why wouldn't anybody why wouldn't NVIDIA just build it, right? Why did they come to Yale and ask Professor Xiao, how are you solving this problem? So it's because you need a lot of expertise in this area. Just again, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. As from the technology perspective, a lot of these companies are sort of help you react to problems that have already happened. And I think when we started this, we aimed at how do we sort of prevent attackers or hackers from compromising the system in sort of a very active sense. And so, yeah, the software we built, it runs on the machine and it sort of provides that kind of active prevention.
But I do think all of these companies are curious as to how they're going to solve this. Like you see Palo Alto is invested in Mythos with Anthropic because they want to know how are we going to solve this need for trust. I see that this technology is incredibly robust and it would meet the needs of this market very, very well.
Just quick follow-up. Is it protected by patents? Is it protected by proprietary information? Is it all trade secret?
Yeah, so the sort of base firmware is published in papers, and yeah, we're planning on open sourcing it. This is common in the security community because people like to be able to know the foundations of what they're building, and it's kind of a transparency part of it. But the enterprise, sort of software stack on top, that's closed source. And I think, yeah, there's a lot of complexity involved, like Sophia was saying, with the cryptography of doing some of these operations. And so that's something that AI, you wouldn't sort of want to use AI to build out some of these cryptographic algorithms. And so that's an advantage that we have in that sense.
Thank you so much.
Great presentation, great Q&A.
Thanks.
So we're going to continue on the AI theme. Our next presenter is Gideon, which has the first AI-powered support line for incarcerated people, designed to be the reliable and always available resource that currently doesn't exist for them. The presenters are Jeremy Rodriguez and Inola Jeho. Thank you.
Hi, Hi, judges. We're excited to tell you today about Gideon. But first, I'm Eniola. I'm a third year at Yale Law School. I'm a member of the Challenging Mass Incarceration Clinic, and I was an ex-programmer at BlackRock.
And I'm Jeremy Rodriguez, also a third year at Yale Law School. I have been a member of the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Clinic, where we have helped startups over the course of 3 semesters go from idea to execution. So let me tell you about Gideon. The core problem is that prison is the only place in this country where if your rights are violated, you can't just go to court to have them vindicated. Instead, you must first go through a complex, bureaucratic, administrative process. There are 3 key stakeholders in this system. There are the incarcerated individuals themselves, there is the Department of Corrections, which runs the prison, and then there is the Ombudsman, who provides oversight and advocacy for the incarcerated population. We're partnering with the Ombudsman to help them connect with the incarcerated population.
So more on the problem. The Ombudsman's office, which is the place that is responsible for making sure that prisons remain humane, literally had to stop accepting prisoners' phone calls because they couldn't keep up with the demand. And currently, there are over 189 complaints awaiting review. In order for the Ombudsman's office to adequately intake and address prisoner complaints, they probably need to hire an additional 4 to 5 staff members, which would cost them approximately $480,000 a year. Our solution costs just $30,000 a year. As you can imagine, when we demoed our product to the Connecticut Oversight Office, they were quite interested, and they even offered to write us a letter of interest to support our Startup Yale application. So they're crossing their fingers for us, and I have the full letters here.
So there are 4 fundamental types of claims you can pursue through the administrative remedies process: general, medical, property, and PREA. We're going to demo property for you right now.
Hi, thanks for calling. I'm Gideon, and I'm excited for this Startup Yale demo. How can I help?
Hey, a guard came in and totally tore up my cell the other day. What can I do?
I'm sorry that happened. To help you, I need to know when the search took place. Was it within the last 30 calendar days?
It was yesterday.
Or has it been longer? Thanks for telling me. Since it was yesterday, you are within the 30-day deadline to file a grievance. This would go through the general grievance process. First, you need to try informal resolution by submitting a CN 9601, the inmate request form. Have you already submitted a CN 9601 about this or spoken to a supervisor?
No, I haven't done that. Will that help me get my stuff back?
If your property was lost or damaged during the search, the process is a bit different. For lost or damaged property, you must first try informal resolution by submitting a CN 9601, just like with other grievances. If that doesn't resolve it, you can then file a CN 9610, the lost damaged property.
And that's all we have time for?
But let's talk more about the Gideon difference. As we've mentioned, we cost a fraction of what a staffed hotline would require, 94% less, and we are only 3.5% of Connecticut's budget. Gideon is also available 24/7 and critically provides instant frictionless systems level data that is currently unavailable.
So obviously with this sort of system, accuracy is critically important. We have done 2 different testing suites. One is a single prompt and response, in which we achieved 96.6% accuracy. And the second is an actual multi-turn conversation simulation on which we achieved 100% accuracy. The 3.4% of non-critical failures that we observed in the single prompt and response is where the system would provide good information, but could have been a touch clearer in the execution. However, when we expanded and simulated the full conversation, with 100% accuracy, the system was providing every key piece of information at some point before the end of the call.
So let's talk more about our go-to-market strategy. With the support of the Startup Yale grant, we plan to launch the Connecticut pilot and serve approximately 20% of Connecticut inmates. That pilot would run around 3 months. At the same time, or around the same time, we plan to run a number of multi-state pilots. We're already in conversations with a number of states. And then from there, we would begin negotiating annual contracts, onboard an additional 4 to 5 states. And we want to emphasize that this is not a one-off product. Our goal is to expand this platform to other areas where phone-based procedural guide is helpful and necessary. And we've already have early validation for that.
So as for the Miller Prize, we are committed to using all $25,000 of funding to fund pilots in different states. $5,000 of that is earmarked for Connecticut. The remaining $20,000 will allow us to support 3 to 5 additional pilots. And that's Gideon. We look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Awesome. So on the technology part, what is the proprietary layer here? We understand how it's all set up, but what's truly the advantage, differentiator?
So one of our key pieces of defensive IP is the relationships that we've already formed with not just the Connecticut State's ombudsperson, but with several other states. And actually that's been a key way that we've reached other states. Connecticut's referred us to New York, who's referred us to Hawaii. And so we think these relationships are hard to replicate, but also there's an incredible amount of research that goes into understanding the grievance process. That would also be hard to replicate.
So it's not like data or algos, right? So you're outsourcing this algorithms, data, models, because what you were just saying, like the bot and everything, so that's not the part of the moat.
Well, we are relying currently on a number of commercial services to build this out, like Retail AI and Twilio for telephony. 11 Labs provides our voice for us. But for long term, we do plan on creating our own proprietary tech stack. There aren't many gains to be made accuracy-wise because we're within 96 to 100% accuracy, but we think we could get cost savings by investigating an open source LLM via like Gemma 4, for example, and also maybe our own speech-to-text engine.
All right.
One other thing to add,
Yeah.
our prompting architecture went through 50 different iterations, might be closer to 60 these days. If you just try to take an LLM out of the box and apply it to this use case, even if you give it the documents, it will not perform well. It will be somewhere in the like 70 to 80% range with multiple critical failures. Someone else would need to replicate this technology, initiating an entire process of their own. So that is proprietary to
Well,
us.
that's good to know, because imagine the type of data you're working, it's highly sensitive and high risk of the leaked, so it needs to be, of course, strong game on the technology part. Yeah. Okay, so now another piece, the customer, like the business for you, you're focusing more like end user, right, like through the phone, but then they are in the government institutions, you know. What's the path actually to scale here?
So our customer is the Connecticut State Department of Corrections Ombudsman and then other state oversight organizations. The business model will be long-term contracting with them. We're able to support either variable pricing, where they pay by the minute, or a fixed cost contract under which we agree to provide services over a period like 6 months or a year. In the future, we are also hoping to potentially partner directly with the Department of Corrections. As you heard on the demo, our system currently gives advice. It's a navigation tool. In the future, we hope to take this pen and paper analog process and allow for filing directly through the system, which would be possible with a direct Department of Corrections integration.
Yes. So first off, kudos to your team for tackling a problem like this. So justice involved individuals. This is I'm blown away by it personally, just in terms of the problem you chose. So what I'm curious about is how the unit economics work. From a standpoint, and I don't mean how much for SynthFlow and any other voice model. I mean, we've built voice agents, so I know what's involved with the technology. I'm just curious about why would an ombudsman do this? Like, is there right now I'm paying X amount of dollars. You guys will, so the budget's already earmarked and so on. So you guys will help me save X amount on an already existing allocated budget. Like that's the part I'm not clear about. Like what's the, the urgency to make the sale work, and then as a small follow-up to that, I'm just curious about the sales velocity, right? Like how long does it take to go from first contact to ombuds to check, something like that. Like so those two things I'm sure curious about.
Yeah, so part of the key problem, well, first, really the only competing solution is just to have a voicemail where prisoners just leave a voicemail for complaints. Ombuds people like our solution because it's dynamic and it actually provides advice. And it's not just the hotline platform. There is a separate platform for the oversight offices to be able to look through the complaints to get data, see maybe there were 10 complaints about a specific guard this month. That's data that they currently don't have, and it helps them navigate faster through these outstanding complaints. So there is urgency. The governor's interested in prison oversight. It's a big issue nationwide, to be honest, but there was a second part.
To be precise, these offices have a mandate to receive this sort of feedback from justice-impacted individuals, not only those who are currently in the system, but also friends and family. And this is an enormous administrative burden on them, given their limited personnel and limited financial resources. So for states like Connecticut, where they've had to discontinue this program, we are offering them a financially reasonable solution. For other states that are more well-established, like New Jersey, something we're hoping to partner with in the coming months and years, we could do a more traditional cost savings pitch, taking things like data entry and automating that part of the process while allowing them to maintain their human infrastructure if that's the direction that the office would like to continue in.
Awesome. Definitely agree with the judges so far. Really enjoying, learning more about what you're building with Gideon. So 2 questions that I have more on the impact for the people who are experiencing, incarceration. So the first is, it seems like you don't have the proprietary tech stack created just yet. Is that correct? How do you minimize corruption or hindrance of access to this data?
So I'll talk about security. There are 2 components, well, 3 components of security. Component number 1 is that the Department of Corrections by default will monitor all calls leaving a facility. Through partnership with the ombudsmans, we have access to a phone line that is not monitored. So that's piece number 1 of security. Piece number 2 is the API calls to the AI agents. Because we are business customers and because we are using platforms that are fully SOC 2 and HIPAA compliant, we are covered there. And then the third part is database storage of this information once we have it. We are going to ensure our database complies with the highest standards of security, and we are committed to having a third-party security audit to ensure that it is in fact secure before we launch this, even as a pilot.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that question. And then my second question is just understanding it is the cost of this. So I know you mentioned that the buyer would be the state prison. So would the cost of this, is there a way to stop the cost of this being transferred to the people who are incarcerated? Like, what does that look like?
So I would like to emphasize something because this is a complex environment. Our customer is the ombudsman over here. The Department of Corrections, the prison, is the green block over there. So it's a different funding stream, although we do ultimately hope to partner with the Department of Corrections.
So your ICP is the ombudsman. You did mention that there are some other state contractors that might be follow-on customers. Can you talk a little bit about them? How much of a potential piece of the pie are they down the road? And then can you give me a better understanding of the market as a whole? I'm not familiar, how many ombudsmen there are in the US, what their typical budgets are. So how big of a business could this be?
I will say the first bit of it, and then Eniola will say the second bit of it. If we were just a prison hotline and we scaled just in the United States to all 50 jurisdictions plus DC and the territories, the total addressable market is a modest 5 to 15 million. But I would say that we are a phone hotline in the same way that Amazon is a bookstore. We have a thesis about service delivery.
And we already have yeah. So for example, when we demoed to New York, they have a slightly different structure than Connecticut. They don't have investigatory powers, but they were interested in this technology. And a staff member followed up with us to refer us to other human rights organizations that they think could be interested in this same technology, but a different use case. They're thinking of use cases that we weren't even thinking of. I mean, we see how this could be helpful for legal aid organizations, nonprofits, but I think this is some evidence that there are more organizations than we can even imagine who would be impacted by having phone-based procedural guidance in a way that is dynamic and accurate.
Putting it all together, the total addressable market across these segments is comfortably over 100 million. We expect strong growth in these market segments in the future.
We do, and we want to just mention that we are committed to this full time. We both turned down lucrative big law offers post-graduation, so we will be working on this full time.
How much money do you need to make it work? What does your budget look like? You still have to live and you have to eat. I mean.
Yeah. Yes. We are self-funding off a combination of savings and loans over the course of 6 months, during which we're hopefully going to execute multiple pilot programs. Self-funding expenses will be somewhere in the $30,000 range, which is not trivial, but manageable.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you to the Gideon team. Okay, our final presenter today, we're going to move to a different category in the beauty area. And Cosnetics is a biology-driven platform that uses genetics, microbiology data, and skin traits to predict how cosmetic products will interact with a specific person, enabling personalized consumer guidance while creating broader value across skin care, dermatology, and product innovation. Presenting today will be Allison O'Donnell.
Hi everybody, my name is Allison and we are Cosnetics, the future of personalized skin health. For millions of individuals, skin health affects more than just how you look. It can affect your confidence, how you show up to interviews, how you walk into class, and how you move through your everyday life. But despite how personal our skin health is, we are still buying our over-the-counter skincare through trial and error, leaving many consumers with irritated skin, frustration, wasted money, and drawers full of expensive products we feel guilty throwing away. And that is the reality of a massive market. Every year, 50 million Americans struggle with acne, 90% feel confused or frustrated by skincare choices, and 76% expect personalization. Yet, skincare is still a blind purchase. That is why we have created Cosnetics, a predictive compatibility platform. We use our AI-built model to analyze your visible skin traits, genetics, and your skin microbiome, to predict how products will work for you as an individual before you spend a dime on it. So how is our technology different? There are apps like Yuka and OnSkin that are ingredient scanners, but they give you a generic report stating the ingredients in each product, leaving consumers confused on how that relates to their own skin. On the other side, there are companies like Curology and Proven that are biology-based, but they will only give you recommendations within their product specific, so you are brand locked into their brands. Now, Skin DNA sits a little bit closer to us, but is still falling short. Skin DNA is a one-time genetic report about your skin. Once again, leaving consumers confused. How do I use this report and apply it to the skincare that I'm buying every day? That is why we have created Cosnetics, the first ever biology-based, brand-agnostic, and product-specific tool to help you buy your skincare more easily. So far, we have filed a full US utility patent. We have had 100 beta testers, 50 engagement events per user, and over 700 products have been analyzed on our platform. This shows that users are not just downloading our app, they're using it to make informed decision-making purchases. Along with that, we have received $38,000 in non-dilutive funding and $175,000 in computing credits from the NSF, Google for Startups, Microsoft for Startups, and others. And finally, we have partnered with Zymo Research and Living DNA as our genetic testers. So we are launching where the demand is highest and growing. Based on 100 customer discovery interviews, we found that the #1 skin concern in US adults ages 20 to 29 is acne. So that is our clear market launch. From there, we will expand into the broader acne market of about 42 million individuals. Then expanding into the broader sensitive skin market of around 119 million individuals, overlapping between the US beauty personal care and the global K-beauty. So our go-to-market strategy is outlined here. First trust, then pilot, then scale. We are already working with eczema advocate Ashley Laura, dermatologists, and other skin foundations to develop the credibility that we need in this field. We will then partner with mission-aligned brands to do a pilot, and then scale with large conglomerates like Unilever and L'Oreal. Cosmetics has multiple paths to our revenue. The first path being our DTC app. Consumers will buy our genetic and microbiome testing, and we will also have brand memberships included in our revenue. This will be imported into our cosmetics platform, making every user making our platform stronger. Along with that, we have our B2B revenue pipeline, consumer research, and ingredient predictability enterprises. And we have built the team to succeed. My name is Allison. I'm a Yale dermatology researcher, and I am pursuing medical school. And I am presenting on behalf of our co-founders. Diana, our CEO, has come from years of startup experience and research from UCSF. Cameron, our COO, is a bioinformatician at Baylor College of Medicine. And Grayson, our CTO, is getting his master's in data science at UH. Beyond our co-founders, we have the advising teams to get us to the places we need to be. Some including Diugu Celebi, who is a product formulator at Unilever, specifically in Dove Men, and Justin Silver, who has had his own skincare brand previously acquired. So we are asking for $25,000 in order to reach 50,000 users, secure 10 paying brands, and produce a retail pilot, building the traction that we need to raise our pre-seed round. Join us in making people feel more confident in their own skin. Thank you.
Awesome. Great job, Diana. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you.
So wanted to ask you a question. So you're, poised at the intersection of a multi-billion-dollar personalized skincare revolution, right now. So really excited about that. But can you go back to your slide on, I think, revenue, like you had D2C, B2B.
Yes.
So one of my questions was, are you charging a subscription fee for the D2C customers? Is it a one-time genetic report that you're doing? Like, what's the product stickiness here to make sure that customers are continuing to go back?
Yeah, so currently our genetic testing is a one-time purchase since your DNA does not change as an individual. But we base our skin microbiome testing, I like to explain it as like the environmental factors. So somebody that, let's say, has a dog versus somebody that does not have a dog will have different microbiomes. That also goes back to like seasonal changes in people's environments. So we recommend getting skin microbiome done at least twice a year for people who are changing environmental factors. Now, we currently do not have any subscriptions within our app, but that is something down the pipeline that we are looking into. Those subscriptions, instead of having to scan a product to get a compatibility score, we will now give them personalized recommendations straight off the bat. So that would be included in the subscription packages.
Awesome, very cool. And then I have a lot of allergies, so I follow one of those skincare allergy apps. How are you thinking about integrating with other apps that currently exist? Like you mentioned Yuka and all this. How are you thinking about integration for that and perhaps potentially maybe a licensing play for that as well?
Yeah, so I think I have a lot of allergens as well, and I think it's super important to find the right product for you to prevent that irritation, wasted money. So we do take into consideration all of those factors that apps like Yuka and OnSkin are doing as well. So we not only look at your own skin microbiome and your genetic DNA, but we look how that works with the specific ingredients in each product, whether that be allergens, irritants, or other factors that could drive reactions for consumers. Yeah.
Hi, great presentation.
Thank you.
I'm curious if you could go back to the slide with the breakdown of how you'd use the funding for the prize.
Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned is that you're looking to secure brands. I'm curious what the goal is for that. What are you looking to secure the brands for?
Yeah, so one of our goals down the pipeline is to eventually have brand funding. So that would unlock for them the ability to have in-app purchasing for our consumers. So one thing that we really take pride in is staying brand agnostic. So that will not change the recommendation style of our products, but instead, if a specific ingredient is recommended by, say, CeraVe, and it will give the consumer an option to purchase that specific product in the app, making it easier for the consumer to get hands on that product. But it won't change the recommendation platform or anything like that.
Okay, great. And then a quick other question. You spent a little time talking about competition, and this is a highly competitive market. And so I'm curious what you and your team think is the silver bullet in terms of you standing out and being able to excel in the market.
Yeah, so we have our 4 axes here built out: the biology-based, brand agnostic, surface level personalization, and brand locked. Like I said previously, brand agnostic is the most important to us because it removes bias, and that is also something that we have seen talking to dermatologists, that they won't trust this platform unless it is brand agnostic. So you really want to make sure that we keep that part of our database in there. Now, biology-based, skin DNA is really the only one that is not aligned with one specific brand. So Curology, they will create personalized skincare for you, but it's by Curology, as well as Proven and Rivia. So you're locked into Curology's brand, Proven's brand, things like that. So yeah, just one more thing on the skin DNA. They give you a DNA report on your skin, but you're kind of handed a report and expected to translate that information into which products will work best for you. So we definitely have a niche of with easier customer user ability, and we're using that biology to make better decisions.
Thanks for putting this together and pursuing this. So I have actually a couple of questions. I'm trying to minimize it, but first is there anything patentable here? Like, do you have a patent for anything?
Yeah. So what we have patented is the technology behind our AI model. So our patent protects the multi-omic recommendation workflow and the AI architecture that we use. So a little bit about that breakdown. We have 3 different pillars that we look at. We have your genetic DNA, your microbiome DNA, and phenotypic traits. Each have their own AI model. We then combine all of them into one inference engine that generates your skin profile. So we're training them separately and combining them to give you the most compatible report.
Okay, great. And then the other question I had was around, one is a short question. It's really just yes, no. You don't necessarily have to go over it if you don't have it. But do you have your cost of customer acquisition and lifetime value figured out? Do you have that sorted?
Yeah, so we have revenue projections. So by the end of this year, we're projected to produce $450,000 in revenue. That is mostly from kit sales, as that's about 2,000 to 3,000 consumers using our app. We have a steep incline from 2029 to 2030 because we do know that that B2B pipeline takes a little bit longer to execute. And so that really big, that enterprise. Yes.
But Alison, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I just
No worries.
we're running against time.
Yeah.
But cost per customer is what I'm asking. Not so much
Yes.
revenue projections, but how much it costs to acquire a customer, and then what's their lifetime value with you. And if you don't have it, that's fine. I was just curious about that metric.
Yeah, so we have the breakdowns for how much it costs for the genetic testing. Does that answer your question?
No, it's
okay.
more of how you got, and then this leads to my last question. So let's just assume that that's something still in development.
Okay.
I saw dermatologists here mention a couple of places, but then it seems like the go-to-market is focused on direct to consumer. So I'm just curious why, or if you all have. It sounds like you've talked to dermatologists. Is there a decision made at some point to say, hey, this is not something we can put in dermatologist offices and then have the dermatologists help us with distribution and customer acquisition? I'm just curious if that was why not that path versus D2C, if you guys have discussed it, if you all discussed it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that question. I think that is something that we really have looked into. And in our discussions with the dermatologists, we were kind of wondering, will this platform help you and in your clinic? Will it make your clinic easier? Will it improve your clinic workflow? And for a lot of it, we found that it would help them. Because a lot of dermatologists, they have specific brands that they like, or they have specific products that they recommend consistently. And they don't have the time to make it specific to every single patient that they see. So working with the dermatologist, we would have a pilot of about 20 to 30 patients over approximately 6 months. That is what we kind of chatted with the dermatologist about. And she also, like I said, was really looking for brand agnostic, easy for the consumer to understand. So we kind of have broken down our app into easier understanding components with the ability to look into it more if you want to. So we have explored that. I think that is something that we have down the pipeline, getting it into dermatology clinics and improving their workflow. Did that answer your question? Yeah, no problem.
By the way, you did a great job with the pitch.
Thank you.
An awesome job.
Thank you.
But not to ask an awkward question, are any of the co-founders or the CEO, were they able to come and join?
Yeah, so they are actually at the Rice Business Plan pitching this weekend. They really wanted to be here, but we found out about getting accepted to this pitch after they previously committed. And I'm super excited for this opportunity to represent Cosmetics. I think it is a great experience, and they really wish they were here, but we're doing similar pitches at each.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, it's a great experience for me, and I'm really happy to be here, so yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Wow, some great presentations. Let's have a round of applause for all 4 of our presidents. And I think they've made it a tough choice for our judges, so let's have a round of applause for our judges before they depart. So.